I hope everybody is having a phenomenal Friday night. I figure that most people are allowed partying or doing something right now. Maybe high school watching, maybe come back from high school football games and whatnot. But I figured it's a comfortable time for me to sit down and do my NFL shows and all that. That makes it a lot of fun. Sit back, relax, just talk away when I'm feeling my best, and I'm just letting it fly. You're listening to another live edition of Real Steel Sports by your wonderful host, Mr. James M. Krasnerick. This little show right here, I'll be talking about Week 3 NFL picks. My Week 3 NFL picks. Not what the other guys say, just mine. So far this week, I'm 0-1. I did not think that Andy Reid would win in his return to Philadelphia as the Chiefs head coach, but I was incorrect. Jamal Charles ran for 95 yards, and the Eagles committed 5 turnovers as the Chiefs won 26-16. What I want everyone to do is to go on YouTube when they get the chance and look up what the one ref made in that game, which was pretty funny. It was the thing towards the end of the fourth quarter, and the Eagles were mounting a comeback, and there was a false start penalty. He goes, false start, everybody but the center. It was pretty funny, actually, because I'd never ever seen a ref make a call like that. But anyways, it's time to make my predictions for the third week of the NFL season. 0-1 so far with the Chiefs and Eagles. Start with the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. You have the Baltimore Ravens, the defending Super Bowl champions, hosting the 2-0 Houston Texans. In what will be Ed Reed's first game as a Houston Texan after, I believe, 11 years with the Baltimore Ravens, he'll be, ironically enough, facing his old team. And I think the Texans get a win. The reason why I say Houston wins in this game is because Baltimore's a good team. They struggled in the season opener, and they were able to win a defensive battle against the Browns last week on Sunday. But possibly not having Ray Rice, and the fact that the Texans are playing pretty well, and the fact that they seem to be putting up, they're scoring well. Their defense needs to come on a little bit, but they're scoring enough points, and I think they score enough points to overpower the Ravens. I say, I don't know, not so much take the spread on that game. I'm actually going to load up now to see what the spread is for these games. The Baltimore Ravens are favored by 2.5 point underdogs. I took the Texans with the spread. I think that they'll definitely clear it. I think that there's a good chance they'll have a pretty big halftime lead because I think that I think Arian Foster and Matt Shaw will put up some points against the Ravens. After all, they blew them out by 30 points last season down in Texas. The next game will be the Green Bay Packers going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. And I'm actually one of the few people that likes the Cincinnati Bengals in this game. And the reason why I like the Bengals is for one matchup in particular that I think is going to wreak havoc for Aaron Rodgers. And that is how the Bengals defensive line matches up against the Packers offensive line. The Packers offensive line lost their starting tackles in training camp for the season. And I think Cincinnati, with guys like Michael Johnson and Pro Bowler Geno Atkins, are going to absolutely eat up that offensive line. And I know Rodgers is very quick, very underrated with his movement, but I think he's going to be under duress pretty much all day. I have a very hard time believing that he's going to be able to escape that much pressure that consistently. And on the other side of the ball, I don't look at the Packers' defense as being that effective. I mean, yes, they did have a pretty big halftime lead by shutting down RG3 and the Redskins last week, but I think right now RG3's in a funk, and I think Andy Dalton's playing some pretty good ball. Yeah, didn't have much of a completion percentage against the Steelers, but I still would put the Steelers' defense ahead of the Packers' defense. I think AJ Green and Andy Dalton make some pretty sweet music, and I take the Bengals to win the game. The Packers are favored by 2.5, so obviously I'm taking the Bengals with the spread. Next game will be Minnesota hosting the Browns. Cleveland, of course, just departing their highly touted rookie running back, or second-year running back, I should say, Trent Richardson, the number 3 pick in the draft from last year, who they traded up to get so that Minnesota couldn't. So not some Minnesota couldn't. So teams like Tampa Bay and Jacksonville couldn't, and they trade him after just 17 games. Now, what sense does that make? I mean, honestly, sometimes when you have like things that you do that not a whole lot of people, are on the same page with you, the things you do that people question, and they're like, why the hell did you do them? Sometimes after a while, I kind of see why they said that. I have no idea why the Cleveland Browns just got rid of Trent Richardson. I mean, yeah, he was struggling in Cleveland. He was averaging less than 4 yards a carry, but come on. He's that offense's main spark plug. He makes that offense go. Trading him was pointless. The Cleveland Browns are pointless. The Vikings favored by 3.5 points. They get a first win. Christian Ponder proves he's not pointless. Vikings win easily. 5.5 points. They easily cover that. Next game is Rams and Cowboys in Dallas. St. Louis is a good team. They're a good team. Like they're 1-1, but I think they're a very, very good football team. I mean, just losing last week, the Atlanta Falcons in a very close game, in which they came very, very close at the end to tying the game up at the end of the fourth quarter. So far, they're fourth in the season in passing yards per game, and they're fifth overall in rush defense. So they've been pretty decent on both sides of the football. They've struggled running the ball and stopping the pass, but as a whole, as a unit, at least they're good in both categories. At least they're good in one category on both sides. Sam Bradford and Tavon Austin seem to have clicked already. I'm waiting for them to use Stedman Bailey, the other wide receiver they got from WVU. I think it's a very, very good player. But regardless of that, I mean, I have 2 Cowboys in my fantasy team. I have Witten as tight end and Des Bryant as wide receiver. I think that those guys are very, very good players. I mean, those guys have been doing it, and Witten's been doing it forever. He's the second most receptions by a tight end in NFL history, and Des Bryant came on white hot at the end of last year. And I like the Cowboys to win this game. And the reason why I think Dallas wins is I just think they've got a little bit too much offense for St. Louis, at least at this point right now. However, I am going with the Rams with the spread. I think that Dallas will not win this game by 3.5 points. I think maybe a field goal wins the game because St. Louis is becoming a better team. They're becoming a pretty darn good team. I mean, Dallas has been an average team for the last 4 or 5 years, but they're certainly nobody's doormat. I think they'll win this game, but I think it'll be closer. Washington hosting Detroit. I don't know what's going on with the Redskins. I don't. Last year they came on so hot. They started 3-5. At this, I believe they were 3-5 or 4-4 summit last year at one point. Got red hot at the end of the year. RG3 and Alfred Morris just lighting up defenses. Their defense is getting some plays, making some turnovers, and getting some sacks. But this year, they've had none of that. I mean, you look at the 2 losses that they had. I mean, they were getting hammered at halftime by Philly 26-7, would lose that game at home, and then go to Green Bay and get absolutely smothered by the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. They're in disarray right now. And Detroit, I know they're 1-1, but that was a close game they lost last week in Arizona. I think Detroit wins. I think that Stafford and Reggie Bush are going to feast off of the Redskins' defense. I mean, there's a good chance Calvin Johnson could break Flipper Anderson's receiving yards in a game record. Because right now, the Redskins don't have the ability to stop the pass or the run. Particularly the pass, because Aaron Rodgers and Michael Vick lit them up. And Stafford's got just as strong as an arm as those guys, and he's got the best receiver of those 3 teams. What do you think he's going to do? I'm taking Detroit, obviously over the spread because the Redskins are favored by 1.5. Next game is San Diego, Tennessee. A lot of people are picking San Diego to win, and I'm going to go with San Diego as well. I think on the road they go in and win. Right now, I don't know what's gotten into Phillip Rivers, but he's playing some good ball. His quarterback rating this year is 115.5. So he's had a damn good year. 7 touchdowns, just 1 pick through 2 games. The other side, you have Tennessee team that, although they beat the Steelers, they fell last week in overtime to the Houston Texans. I think San Diego wins. Tennessee's favored by 3.5. I think San Diego wins. I think Phillip Rivers' hot streak continues, and I think that they go into Tennessee and they get a victory. The thing about Tennessee is that in terms of their offense, if they're not getting any yards on the ground, they're not doing a whole lot, because Jake Locker, he's a good quarterback, but you really have to work with him to get him to be a really good quarterback. Like, he's not. His career so far has been very shaky, very spotty, and I don't expect it to get that much better. Next game on our list, Tampa Bay travels up to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. On ESPN's weekly pick'em, the Patriots are a 92% favorite over the Bucs, and they will win this game. The spread is 7.5 points, and I actually think they're going to cover that, because I know the Bucs could easily be 2-0 right now. They could easily beat the Saints, and without the stupid penalty, they'd have beaten the Jets. So they could be 2-0 right now, not 0-2. But the problem with that is his team is Greg Schiano. His players don't respect him. They don't like him. His mentality just doesn't fit the NFL level. He's not going to last very much longer. And I think he might actually be removed from his position after the season. Because, Malcolm Glazer, since he took over the team in the mid-'90s, has put together some good teams, including one that won a ring in 2002. He can do better in terms of finding a head coach than this bum. I know the Patriots don't have Gronk. They don't have Hernandez. Gronk's questionable. They don't have any of their big weapons they've had the last few years. They'll still win. I know Tampa Bay's got Vincent Jackson and Doug Martin, but Josh Freeman's struggling like hell right now. But Patriots win this game big. Next game, Arizona Cardinals traveling to the Big Easy to take on my Saints. I definitely am going to pick the Saints at home to improve to 3-0. Of course, whenever you go into the Superdome, unless you're packing some serious offensive heat, you're not going to beat the Saints. You're just not. Because that team, it's kind of funny. Everybody was talking through the preseason about what's Rob Ryan going to do, how's the defense going to be this year. And everybody just assumed they're going to be able to put up the 25, 30 points again they always have. They have not scored more than 23 points in any one game this year. I know there's only been 2 games, but they've only scored 23 points in week 1 against the Falcons, and then another 16 last week in Tampa. Their offense isn't struggling. I'm just saying the defense has played pretty damn well. And if you give Drew Brees a good defense, he might as well just hand New Orleans a Lombardi trophy at that point. I like New Orleans to win this game. They're favored by 7.5 points. But I do not believe that they'll win that easily. I think there'll be a shootout, and I think that the Cardinals keep it close, but I think the Saints will eventually win. Now on to the final 1 o'clock game. The Giants traveling to Carolina to take down the Panthers. Both teams 0-2. And I think the Giants win this game. Carolina's on the hot seat. Ron Rivera's on the hot seat, I should say, the coach for the Panthers. Cam Newton's been pretty good this season. I'd like to see them run the ball more. This Giants team is not what it's been the last 3, 4, 5 years. A team with a dominating pass rush and a quarterback that wins games in the fourth quarter. If anything, Eli Manning's been absolutely dreadful this year in the fourth quarter. He has just been terrible. I'd like to see the Giants try to run the ball more. I would like to see to take the pressure off Eli and let guys like David Wilson put more, take some of the workload off of the quarterback. But as much as they're in disarray right now, including their defense, having just been smoked by the Peyton Manning and the Broncos, not so much through the air but on the ground, I think a trip to Carolina going on the road, I think will do them some good. I think they beat Carolina. I got this game wrong last year. I thought Carolina would beat the Giants in Carolina, and I was wrong. I don't think we're going to get that this year. I think the Giants will get that. I don't think I meant to say I'm not going to get that wrong this year. I think the Giants go into Carolina and get a win. Spread's 1.5, so obviously I think the Giants are going to win. The 4 o'clock games, you have the Miami Dolphins hosting the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm taking Atlanta to win. And both can cover this. The spread's 1.5 for Miami. I don't know why they have Miami favored, especially since they've not been in the playoffs for how many years, and Atlanta just got off an NFC title game appearance. Vegas logic, I guess. But I like Atlanta. I mean, even though Steven Jackson's not going to be able to play, and they'll have literally no run game to speak of, I still think Atlanta beats Miami because Atlanta's offensive line is underrated. Miami's defensive line is good. Mike Wallace might not be playing. And as good as Tannehill's been early in his career so far, I think Mike Ryan and the Falcons go down there and get a win. I mean, Miami's home field advantage is at this time of year when it's still hot and sticky, but I don't think you're going to get that this year. I don't think you're going to get that as a bothersome to the Falcons because they play indoors. They don't really have to deal with that much of that weather either. I like Atlanta to win. I think that they'll just be able to overpower them with that offense with guys like Julio Jones and Roddy White. Up next, the Buffalo Bills playing in New York against the Jets, who are 2.5-point favorites in this game. And I'm kind of surprised the Jets would be favored against anybody, to be perfectly honest with you, because, yeah, they're 1-1 this year, but only because of a cheap shot out of bounds. If you in reality look at how this team has been this year, they've been absolutely abysmal. I mean, yeah, they almost beat the Patriots last week, but that's a little bit of a different story because New England's offense has been pretty shaky. Yeah, they'll beat Tampa Bay, but still. Buffalo wins this game. They do. E.J. Manuel, as a rookie quarterback, is showing poise in the pocket. He's showing that he's determined. He's showing that he feels that he belongs at the NFL level. And he's played pretty damn well in his first 2 games as a rookie. Better than guys like, that we know of today. I mean, he did better than Russell Wilson so far early in his career. I mean, hasn't thrown that many interceptions yet. I mean, he's done better than Luck did. He's just playing remarkably well. I'd like to see them use C.J. Spiller more because I think he's a great asset to the offense in both phases, pass and run, and because he's on my fantasy team personally, but that's just me. But the Bills' defense is going to terrorize Geno Smith all day. I mean, not so much the secondary, but more or less the pass rush. Guys like Mario Williams, Kevin Williams, Marcel Darius, they're going to be up in his face all day. I like the Buffalo Bills. Following that will be the headline game of the weekend, at least amongst the day games. San Francisco 49ers, Indianapolis Colts. San Francisco, Jim Harbaugh, the coach for the 49ers, was the former coach at Stanford. His quarterback was none other than Andrew Luck, the current starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, and last year's number 1 overall pick. And it was time to see if the student can beat the teacher. Now, I don't think it's going to play much of an impact in this game because Indianapolis' defense is not what Seattle's is. But San Francisco has shown this year that they miss Michael Crabtree. Because watch last week's game against Seattle. Other than Anquan Bolden and Vernon Davis, there was nobody that threw the air the Seattle Seahawks had to worry about. I mean, Kyle Williams isn't going to beat anybody. I mean, Randy Moss wasn't going to really beat anybody either, and he's gone. Delaney Walker's not there anymore. At least I don't. Hang on a second. I know one of their 2 tight ends left in the offseason. Yeah, I knew it was Delaney Walker. Couldn't remember for sure, though. Anyways, back to the game. They've either lost key pieces to either injury, as in Crabtree, or free agency, as in Walker. I mean, Frank Gore wasn't going to put up rushing yards against them. But Indianapolis can have a problem because their defense might not be able to stop Frank Gore on the ground. Because one of the best running backs in the game today, behind one of the best run-blocking offensive lines maybe in NFL history, for opening up holes for running backs. I mean, Seattle's defense is a brick wall, and San Francisco ran the ball for over 100 yards. Most of them were Kaepernicks, but still. I think they'll run the ball against Indianapolis and control the game. But I want to see what Indianapolis does with their new toy, Trent Richardson. There was not a happier person when they announced the trade for Trent Richardson than Andrew Luck. Because he's like, finally, I've got a running back that can play every down, that can take some pressure off me. I think Richardson personally will be a great fit in Indy, a guy who can run between the tackles, because I think they're much stronger in the inside than the outside, their offensive line. And I think that's going to be really, really something for them, to try to establish a run game to give Andrew Luck, a little bit more leeway in his passing game because he's got a rock back there in the backfield with him. But overall in this game, I like San Francisco. The fact that they're in the Bay Area, the fact that it's an East Coast team, it's one team going west, or it's one team going cross country to play another, jet lag, all those things. Even though east to west is not as bad as west to east. What else? The fact that it's going to take a lot more than Reggie Wayne and Kobe Fleener to take on the 49ers for Andrew Luck. I think he's going to be under heavy duress all day because the 49ers have a pretty damn good pass rush. And I like the 49ers to win. The spread is 10.5 points for San Francisco. I don't understand how it's that outrageous, considering both teams are 1-1, and they seem to be both playoff contenders for this year. But I'm taking Indy with the spread, obviously. They're not going to lose this game by 10.5. Next game is Seattle hosting the Jaguars. Seattle's favored by 19.5, and I'm going to pick them and with the spread. And I'd like to point out one number this year.
Jacksonville is at Seattle, and they're favored. Seattle is by over 20 points.
And there's a reason for that. Sorry about that. That was the video that popped up on the website. There's a number that I'd like to bring up. There's a few numbers, actually. Number 1 is 11. That's the number of points Seattle scored this year. That the Jacksonville Jaguars have scored this year. They've scored 11 points. They are averaging 52.5 yards a game rushing and 160 yards a game passing, which is second worst and then fourth worst in the NFL. The only reason people haven't exploited their second overall pass defense is because their 31st overall run defense is getting chewed up. Give me Seattle all day long. Enough said. Sunday night. Bears, Steelers. If you are a guy who likes, or someone who likes old school football, smash mouth, hit you again, hit you again type football, this would be the game for you if you were thinking of the Steelers as an average team. But I said the Steelers would go, their ceiling was 11 wins this year. And I still, feel they've got a chance to win 8 games, but 11 is going to be damn near impossible. The reason why I picked the Steelers because I overestimated how good their offensive line was. I underestimated how losing Mike Wallace would affect the team. What else did I overestimated Ziggy Hood's improvement due to his better fitness. And I've overestimated, again, how good Todd Haley would be. Those big 4 estimations and 1 underestimation, that's why this team's 0-2. And the fact that Art Rooney II has absolutely no idea how to run a football team. His father, Dan, and their father, Art Sr., the chief, might have been good football people. Art Rooney II is not a good football person. No. The Bears are actually favored by 2.5 points in this game. I think they will cover the spread. I think they'll maybe win by 4 or 5 points because Pittsburgh's offense right now is stuck in reverse. Really, it is. I mean, yeah, they kind of got cheated in the game last Monday against the Bengals, on the stupid clip block play, whatever, but they're going to lose this game. As much as I love the Steelers, I'm not giving up on them yet. There's a difference between giving up on them and being realistic. Giving up on a team means I'm not going to watch them, not going to follow them, nothing. I'm still watching the games. I'm just basically thinking with my head, and my head is telling me this team is in deep, deep shit. I think the Bears win. Too much Jay Cutler, too much Brandon Marshall. To show you how much I think it's going to matter, I'm actually starting Brandon Marshall against the Steelers defense, and in the years past, I would never start my players against the Steelers defense. What does that tell you? Monday night game, Denver hosting Oakland. I think this could actually be not so much a close game, but a closer game than people think. On ESPN, when you do your picks, they require you to submit a score for the Monday night game, and I'm picking 30-17 for Denver. I think they'll get out to a huge lead, and Terrell Pryor will make some plays at the end. But I mean, you've lost Ryan Clady for the year. You don't have Von Miller. You don't have your center. I mean, and Peyton Manning's not going to keep throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns every game. Eventually, you're going to have to show some balance, and your defense is going to have to step up even more than it has. They've played against a bad Eli Manning and they still gave up 23 points. And they've played against an okay at best Joe Flacco, and they still gave up 27 points. If honestly, Terrell Pryor has had a better year than Eli Manning and Joe Flacco have. Statistically, look him up, he's had a better season. But the Denver Broncos are still going to win this game. Like, not even close. If you think I'm picking Oakland to go into Denver beat the Broncos, you must think I'm stupid or something. And I'm not that stupid. I picked Denver. They're favored by 14.5. I don't favor them to cover the spread. I think Denver will probably get about 2 or 3 touchdowns in Peyton Manning, and they'll win this game. All right, that's all I got to say for this week. I hope you guys enjoy all the games. I'll be back soon enough to do a preview show for next week and also talk about any action I feel is necessary talking about this week. See ya.